You wouldn't have thought that there would be too many that you could do a wish list for, but you'd be wrong. Hello there, welcome back to the channel. I am Grand Moff Tony. You know, The Mandalorian really changed what Star Wars entertainment looked like. We are in a new generation of Star Wars storytelling, and it's entirely down to the success of this show. Serialized Star Wars storytelling has finally made the jump from animation to live action, and for me, it's been an absolutely brilliant experience. I've thoroughly enjoyed all 3 seasons of The Mandalorian so far. I've enjoyed everything that has come from the success of this show. I'm really enjoying this new era that we're exploring in the Star Wars story. The Mandalorian occupies such a massive space in the Black Series line, because I think we're all aware of how the contracting system works between Hasbro and Lucasfilm, that there's almost like a minimum requirement for each wave or each year that they have to produce X number of new media figures in order to support the new content that's coming out. And more often than not, that means we get the 4th or 5th version of the Din Djarin figure, or we get twin packs that all come with Grogu, or little things like that. Maybe we'll get a random droid here and there, like the High Republic security droid. Like, who expected to get a toy of that so fast? Well, that's probably because of this reason, the fact that they have to produce so many of them. And that's probably at least a part of the reason as to why we already have over 30 figures from The Mandalorian in the Black Series. And that's just talking about the Galaxy line stuff. There were half a dozen that came out while the Red Line was still going. But that doesn't mean that The Mandalorian is immune from the wishlist treatment. So today we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about 5 characters from The Mandalorian that I would still like to see come to the Black Series. They're still making these figures, so I feel like it's a pretty relevant time to talk about it, even though there are already so many. Now, of course, we're going to be following the same rules as we always follow with these videos. We're not talking about vehicles, we're not talking about HasLabs, so if you expect me to bring up, oh, we need to get a Black Series scale N1 Starfighter into the line, you might have to kind of hold on to that wish and maybe go out and buy the vintage collection one. It looks really cool. I'm not above doing that. Because for the purposes of this video, we're only talking about standard releases and deluxe releases. Now let's get into talking about a few honorable mentions, as we always do, because I love to say it's 5 characters and then I love to expand that by saying, oh, and these guys too. For my first honorable mention, I don't usually talk about army builders on these lists, but I would love to get a few of Moff Gideon's Mandalorian Super Commandos into the line. Now these guys kind of came out in Rebels back in the day, but there is a much more refined design of these characters in The Mandalorian, and yeah, those are the ones that I want. It could have been the difference of art style, I suppose, to live action, but these guys looked so cool. I love the sleek design of their armor. As soon as I saw them, I was like, you know what? I would absolutely enjoy those. So yeah, Mandalorian Super Commandos, get those in the line. Up next, I'd like to get a few more of those heist crew characters into the line. I don't know how relevant these characters are these days because, you know, Migs Mayfeld is the only one that's come back to the story, but I feel like we could get a couple more of these guys in there. The crazy Twi'lek lady. Why not get the Devarinian, for instance? He'd be a lot of fun. I mean, we've got Migs and we've got Zero. We could absolutely build out this crew, and I think it would be a great addition to the line. As I say, I don't know how relevant they are because most of them haven't come back to the story. I mean, Migs has come back and Zero kind of came back. But yeah, I'd love to get the rest of them in there too. Honorable mentions out of the way, let's get into the list itself. Coming in at number 5, and speaking about characters whose names we still don't know, I'd like to get Frog Lady into the line. I cannot believe this is how we're still referring to this character years after the series has come out. We still don't know what her name is. It really takes me back to like the old Kenner lines back. Obviously I wasn't around when Kenner was doing stuff, but I've seen them online. I've seen what they used to call figures before their names were revealed. It was just background aliens like Snaggletooth and Hammerhead and all of that. They were just a vague description that Kenner just came up with on the fly, or maybe it came off of concept art. But yeah, we're still calling this woman Frog Lady after all this time. But I think she'd be a brilliant addition to the line. Obviously, the Black Series does a great job with alien head sculpts, and this would be another banger of an example. I know I say that every single episode, like, let's get more aliens in the line because they're so good at it, but it's true. And it only gets more and more true the longer this line goes on. She's quite a short character, so I don't know if she would constitute her own release on her own. own, but I'd love to get that backpack in the line with her little eggs, and you know what, if we're gonna have the backpack with the eggs, maybe this is yet another opportunity to pack a character with Grogu, because we all know how that went. We're starting to see shorter characters in the line that aren't just Yoda. I mean, we've got Omega, Kid Anakin is coming, which I accurately wished for back on my Phantom Menace wishlist. So this is another great opportunity to make use of that shorter humanoid-ish mold. I don't know if I'd go for soft goods or like plastic for her clothing. I don't know if soft goods have like won me over enough where I'm like, yeah, soft goods everything. But the really important thing for me on this figure is that head. Like, really nail that alien head. Maybe even give her an alternate head where she's, you know, I think that'd be absolutely brilliant. I'd go on board with that. Frog Lady comes in at number 5.
I thought honouring one's word was a part of the Mandalorian code.
At number 4, we have the Imperial Praetorian Guard. Now, as I usually say, I don't talk about army builders on this list, but these guys were so cool that I had to make an exception for them. I'm a big fan of the First Order Praetorian Guards, and particularly how they came out when they did the Black Series figures of them, so just seeing these incredibly imposing red armored figures walk onto screen was so cool. The reason these guys found their way onto my list, besides being really cool, is that I figured it would be a great opportunity to do something like they did with Figure and Dan again, where they released a single figure and they put a bunch of different accessories in there so you could pick which one you wanted, because these guys all have their own unique and awesome looking weapons. So why not pack a single figure with a, 3 or so spears and swords and different weapons that you could choose from. In all likelihood, they probably follow the same kind of release pattern as they did for the original Praetorian Guard figures, where there's one in the main line, there's an Amazon exclusive, and then there's a third that's included in an incredibly expensive 4-pack, which I do have that Praetorian Guard, but I didn't buy that 4-pack. I had to buy them loose. I just think these guys are awesome. I just think that stark and powerful red color is going to look so cool on the shelf, and the reason I say that is because of the First Order Praetorian Guards, how cool they are and how much I love those figures. So whether they Figure and Dan it and release one with a couple of different weapons, or they stick a couple in a twin pack, or they even go back and do the original way of doing it with, releasing different ones with different weapons here, there, and everywhere, I just want to get a bunch of these guys into the line because they are seriously cool and they would really elevate the display. The Imperial Praetorian Guard come in at number 4. At number 3, we have Captain Gorian Shard. Now, this guy was a really unique addition to the 3rd season, and when I saw him on screen for the first time, I was like, this guy is like a cross between Davy Jones and a Muppet, and I absolutely love it. I love these really wild and out there alien designs, because that's really what Star Wars' broadest appeal is looking into the background and just seeing these weird and wonderful designs. I feel like in order to properly capture this character, it would probably have to be a deluxe release, just to make sure that we can get all of those paint apps on there. We saw recently with the release of the Book of Boba Fett Black Chrysanthemum that when they do these deluxe figures, they can really go above and beyond with the paint. And that's really what this guy needs. He needs that messy, wet kind of look to him. And I think they could absolutely nail it. Star Wars has a great history of this kind of pirate underworld, and this guy just seems so cool. I mean, he's a pirate king, for crying out loud. You've got to get that in the Black Series. I'm amazed that we don't have it already. Really, I wouldn't mind getting any of these pirate characters into the line. I particularly like that Nikto guy that came down to the surface. I think we'll probably see him again in Skeleton Crew, so who knows, maybe we'll talk about him then when we get to that wish list. But the one that I really want it's Gorian Shard. I have to get this amazing pirate king figure on my shelf because he just looks so cool. And you know what? I will pay a little bit more for him to just knock him out of the park and make him incredible. I've said it already in this video, Black Series does an amazing job with alien head sculpts, so let's do another one. Let's get this incredible character into the line. Captain Gorian Shard comes in at number 3.
Well, now I will shoot first.
At number 2, we have Pelimoto, the attitude-filled little engineer from Tatooine. I think she's brilliant. I enjoy her every time she shows up. And really, it's crazy to me that we have so many of these figures in the line already. You know, R5 has come to the line, the pit droids are coming to the line. How have we not gotten to Peli yet? She's such a brilliant character. I honestly really expected them to pack her in with the pit droids, but we seem to be getting a pit droid 3-pack with another release of R5. So there's that. I don't know quite what the thought was behind that, because what we're really missing with these figures is Peli, and she's brilliant, so why haven't we done it yet? This would be another opportunity to make use of that shorter humanoid body sculpt we were talking about, because, yeah, she's not a tall person, she's quite small, and that's part of the reason why I like her so much. You know, Mando meets a lot of different characters on his journeys, and, you know, they always come in one way, and then, you know, you find out that they're not as hard as they seemed when he first met them, and they've got a heart of gold, and Peli really is like the golden standard of that, because unlike a lot of other characters that he's met along the way, she never turned on him. She's never betrayed him. She just turned out to be like a really, really helpful friend. You know, she helped him build his starship after the Razor Crest was destroyed. She's looked after Grogu more than once. You know, she rushed to the rescue during the Battle of Mos Espa in the Book of Boba Fett. She's just a great character, and I'd absolutely love to immortalize her in plastic on my shelf. Now, obviously, with her being a shorter character, we're going to want to put some more stuff in the box to make it worth it for a regular line release. And being as we probably can't do the pit droids because they're now coming out in their own set, and R5 has been in various different releases by himself, I'm not really sure what we could put in there with her. Like maybe a Womp Rat, or one of the little BD droid that was hanging around for an episode, or maybe just a bunch of engineering tools. I don't know. I would just love to get this figure in the line because she's a brilliant character. I absolutely love it every time she turns up. Pelimoto is an easy choice for number 2.
Oh, thank the Force! This little thing has had me worried sick.
But the number 1 character from The Mandalorian that I would love to see come to the Black Series is Moff Gideon in his 4th generation Dark Trooper armor. You know, Moff Gideon's whole thing is taking power that doesn't rightfully belong to him and then just making it suit him. You know, he doesn't have the Force, so he's trying to clone the Force out of Grogu. He's not a Mandalorian. He could never lead Mandalore, but he took the Darksaber anyway. And he could never get Mandalorians to follow him, so he just made his own. He made his own Mandalorians, and he turned himself into their leader. He really is a vile and despicable villain to this series, and he plays so well off of Mando that I just love it so much. And when he showed up in this sleek black armor, I was sold from the second I saw it. I was like, I need that. I need that on my shelf. I know we've got Moff Gideon in the line already, but I need that Dark Trooper armor in the line because it's just incredible. Now, this would need to be a big and bulky figure, so we're probably looking at another deluxe release here because the armor really added to Gideon's height. He's not a tall fellow, he's quite short, but the armor gave him a few extra feet, it looked like, and made him a really intimidating presence. And I feel like we can't talk about this figure without talking about the Dark Trooper figure that already came out, and what a brilliant release that was. I feel like that figure alone shows that they could do an incredible job with Moff Gideon in this armor. You know, we ramble on and on this channel about things that the Black Series does really, really well, and droids are up there, aliens are up there, but if I was to pick a third thing, it would be armor. Armored characters look incredible in this line. I don't think it would make sense to re-release the Darksaber with this figure because he didn't have the Darksaber at the time, but maybe a crushed and destroyed Darksaber, or maybe just a bunch of other really cool accessories like flamethrower effects like we saw with the Cad Bane release. But I think a really obvious inclusion would be his Electro Staff. We've seen this accessory a couple of times in the Black Series and it always comes out looking really, really cool. So it would be a no-brainer of an inclusion to go with this figure. And then, you know what? Really nail that helmet and I probably won't ever take it off. Like, I love the Moff Gideon head sculpt, don't get me wrong, but that helmet just completes the look. It turns him into this monstrous figure and I absolutely love it. So yeah, this is an easy pick for me me. From the moment I saw it on screen all the way up to now, I've just been constantly checking the new releases, like, is he coming? Are they doing him? Why haven't they done him yet? So Moff Gideon in his 4th generation Dark Trooper armor is easily the #1 character from The Mandalorian that I need to see come to this line.
I was isolating the potential to wield the Force.
So there you have it. Those were 5 characters from The Mandalorian that I need to see come to the Black Series. So let me pass this subject off to you, as I always like to do. What are some characters from this series that you would love to see come to this line? There's such a broad lineup of different characters. I feel like we could get a really diverse line. I mean, we've already got a really diverse line. I know it might feel sometimes like we just get Mandalorian releases or different versions of Grogu, but my Mandalorian display is one of my favorite displays in my entire collection, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, let me know down below which ones you'd like to get, and I will respond to each and every one of you. Speaking of responses, I just wanted to tag this on the end that I am incredibly grateful to everyone who has reached out regarding last week's video. You know, whether you commented on it with, you know, your support, or you reached out privately by message to, you know, share your story. I've really appreciated all of the conversations that we've been able to have around healthy collecting habits and things that we do to try and keep this hobby fun and not fall into really bad habits. It's been an absolutely brilliant reception. I didn't know how that video was going to go over. I knew it was something that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't think maybe that I had been around long enough to touch on such an important subject. So the feedback to that has been absolutely incredible, and I really appreciate it. Up next on the Wishlist series, we're going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett, a series that I really wasn't looking forward to and really changed my mind on Boba Fett, because I've talked about it a few times on the channel. We've never really gotten along, but we do now, so I'm really excited to talk about that series. In the meantime, however, I've been Grand Moff Tony. That was my top 5 Black Series wishlist for The Mandalorian. You may subscribe when ready. Try saying that 3 times. Serialized Star Wars storytelling. Serialized Star Wars storytelling. Oh no, it's a that thing. It's a Magna Guard pole thing. No, that's not right. Cut that bit out.